are coming off a short week, obviously played on Monday Night Football, absolutely destroying the Giants. Tom Brady, for the first time in his Tampa Bay tenure, will be traveling to the house that Peyton Manning built, Lucas Oil Stadium, to face a Colts team that maybe we underrated, maybe we're a little bit too harsh on, because they kicked the Bills' ass in Buffalo. Jonathan Taylor, that grown-ass man with 5 touchdowns against the Buffalo Bills' top 3 run defense that we vaunted last week talking about it. Didn't matter to this guy. I was hearing a fun conversation on a Colts podcast this week. I haven't watched the new in-season Hard Knocks yet, but the fact that Chris Ballard was having that conversation to hype up Jonathan Taylor, and he coincidentally goes out there and has the game of his life, I think is almost no coincidence there. He's going to face another tough run defense, though, because the Bucs, if there's one thing they do well on defense, it is stop the run. So I'm going to be curious to see who wins. It's that immovable force versus that unstoppable object type argument here, because he's pretty much the second best running back behind a healthy Derrick Henry. I think there's 1A, 1B arguments to be made there. And Carson Wentz, hey, he's been phenomenal this year. Phenomenal, I guess I use lightly, but he's been a top 10 quarterback, I think. Yeah, I think he's 15. Been a top, when you actually think 15. About it, like, I would say top 10. Certainly he's been a fantasy top 10 quarterback this year.
Let's see what the QBR numbers say at this point, but go ahead. I'll figure this out. I
will say this, and you wonder why he's had a turnaround. Did he ever have a Jonathan Taylor in Philadelphia? Did he ever have a Michael Pittman Jr. in Philadelphia?
Well, I will say the one thing he had in 2017 where he almost won the MVP was the greatest offensive line in the history of the NFL. And now in Indianapolis, he has one of the 3 best offensive lines in all of the NFL. And you're starting to see Carson Wentz put up better numbers. By the way, Carson Wentz is ranked 12th this year in QBR. So it's been an above average season for Carson Wentz.
Yeah, well, at least he didn't throw a left-handed pass this week. I asked him to not throw a left-handed pass, and he obeyed my order and did not. So at least he listens to the podcast. Clearly, Carson Wentz, you are a loyal listener, and we thank you for your service there. Another fun storylines I find coming into this game, Robert Mathis is coincidentally going into the Ring of Honor there in Indianapolis. And also Adam Vinatieri will be part of the pregame ceremony there. So Adam Vinatieri obviously ties to Brady, ties to Colts. Should be a little bit of a fun welcome back to Lucas Oil for Tom, as I'm sure that Indianapolis crowd is going to be ready for action. Tampa Bay in this game is a 2.5-point road favorite. We have seen the wheels start to come off the bus a little bit for them, in the sense, obviously, they lost to Washington, which was an unforgivable loss. I can't remember, who did they lose to the previous week there?
They lost to the Saints. Remember the pick 6 at the end. Then they had a bye week, and then they lost to Washington.
The one thing that might help them this week, and fake vaccination cards aside here, AB should be back. We saw Rob Gronkowski come back this week. So now the Bucs finally have their full complement of offense. And while the Colts had one of their best defensive performances of the season against the Bills, I think that it's going to be very hard for Indianapolis to control this Buccaneers team now that they're fully healthy and have their full complement of weapons. I don't think the pass rush could get home on Brady with a banged up DeForest Buckner. I'm going to pick the Buccaneers in this game.
So this is an interesting place that the Colts find themselves in. For people who may not remember, last year in the playoffs, the Colts played at the Buffalo Bills in the 7-2 matchup. And what people have kind of forgotten from that game is at halftime of that game, right before halftime, the Colts were up 10-7 against the Buffalo Bills. There was about 5 minutes left in the second quarter. It was 10-7. Rodrigo Blankenship had already missed a field goal earlier in the game, and the Colts had 1st and goal at the 2-yard line. So say Blankenship makes that kick and they score that touchdown, the Colts are up 20-7 at halftime against the Buffalo Bills. And what happens is they have 1st and goal at the 2. They don't get it. 1st down, 2nd down, 3rd down, go for it on 4th down, don't score. So 4 plays, don't score from the 2-yard line. Buffalo takes the ball immediately next, and Josh Allen rolls right and throws I believe, 56-yard pass to John Brown that then sets up the Buffalo Bills to score a touchdown immediately after. So the Colts were almost up 14 in Buffalo last year in the playoffs. This Buffalo team is not as good as last year's Buffalo team. And I was hitting myself so hard because I'm like, I had the analysis last year. I forgot about it. And the Colts literally did the exact same shit as last year and won by 26 points in Buffalo. I'm like, if I had just said that and remembered my analysis from 10 months ago, I would have absolutely said, oh yeah, the Colts are going to kick ass against the Buffalo Bills. And I'm so mad at myself for forgetting that analysis last week because they literally did the exact same thing, exact same game plan last year and just dominated the Buffalo Bills last week. So all of that to say, I'm also taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week because the Buccaneers have a really strong defense at this point in the season. I will shout out the Colts for getting back in the race. It's not over yet because I will take my little victory lap on the Titans and telling y'all for 3 weeks the Titans weren't actually that good, and then having them lose to the Texans at home because they're really struggling to score points. So the Colts aren't technically out of it yet in that division just because the Titans have lost now Derrick Henry and Julio Jones and just can't score points at all. The Colts are better than the Titans without Derrick Henry and Julio Jones. They just have to climb 2 games in 6 weeks to try and catch them, which might be difficult, especially because the Colts have their own flaws, especially on defense this year. You mentioned the DeForest Buckner situation. Darius Leonard has not had the greatest season so far. Kenny Moore has regressed a little bit. So it's been a fine year for Indianapolis. They've got some issues around there. This is just a principle of the Bucs are a better team in this game. So I will roll with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well this week.